Hi stream, this is Yay Emacs number 11. I'm Sasha Chua, and today I will talk about how to fix find function for Emacs Lisp from org-babel or the Scratch buffer. Quick question, where can you define an Emacs Lisp function so that you can use find function to jump to it later? Option A, in an indirect buffer from an org mode source block with your favorite eval function like eval defun. Let's try it out. Actually it's control C dot, control C apostrophe gets you this. I evaluate it. I try to jump to the function. Don't know where my test1 is defined. How about in an org mode file by executing the block with control C, control C? Let's try that here. Can we find function, what's it called? My test2? Nope, can't find it either. In a .el file, let's say we have an Emacs Lisp file that's got a defun in it. We evaluate that. Can we find it again? My test3. Yes, that one we can find. Actually, we need to do a find function. Find function, my test3. And that finds it. How about in a Scratch buffer? Let's say, for example, you have your Scratch buffer, you've been defining a function, you want to test it out. Can you find it again? I'm looking at it, I'm saying my test4, where is it? Emacs doesn't know where it is. So only option C works. It's got to be in a .l file in order for the find function to find it. Which, I love jumping to function definitions using find function or Lispy go-to symbol, which replaces the extra of find definitions so on meta dot if you use package Lispy and set up Lispy mode. And it's a great way to look at things or change how something works. But it can be a little frustrating when I try to jump to a definition and it says, don't know where blah 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 is defined. I just defined it 5 minutes ago. It's there in one of my other buffers. Don't make me look for it myself. Probably this will get fixed in Emacs Core someday, but no worries, we can work around it today with a little bit of advice. So I did some digging around the source code. It turns out that symbol file can't find the function definition if there's a load history variable. So find function, search for symbol, gets called when dil for the library, which causes the error. But you can work around that with advice. And I've written something that searches in all the open Emacs Lisp mode buffers or in a list of other files like my Emacs configuration for the function. So this is how I activate it. I just add this list of files to look at, and I add some advice to find function search for symbol. So now if I have, a function I'm thinking I want to change the way that this works, I can jump into the function definition with a handy dandy method dot command, which in this case I've got Lispy mode on. It calls Lispy go to symbol. So assuming we've got the live demo working, ta-da! Look at this one. So I define this one inside the source buffer. In fact, let's leave the source buffer open here. And we've got our other source buffer over here. So now when I press meta dot, it jumps me to the source buffer that I have open with that code in it, instead of just complaining about not being able to find the function. And then if I have just executed the block without going into the source buffer, this advice also makes it so that find function works for that case as well. In this case, instead of finding it in one of the Emacs Lisp mode buffers, it searches the list of backup files, of the other files like my Emacs configuration for the function definition. So if I say, for example, I'm somewhere else, I say, okay, where's that function defined again? I need to change something. I can find it and go straight to my source code. If I'm, for example, tangling things, then at least I'm doing it in one place. Naturally, the EL files still work, so we didn't mess that up, thank goodness. But if I define something in a Scratch buffer, and let me show you that with a Scratch buffer here, just any buffer will do. I can say defun my test5, and let's go see if I can find that now. Find function my test5. It goes to the Scratch buffer or wherever else. In fact, this works even for pretty much pretty much anything, because you can, you can define it even in other places. Anyway, so this is fun. And the way that it works is there's some advice over here that calls, so there's advice over here that calls this function, Sasha Elias find function search for symbol. And when the library is nil, that means that Emacs built-in finding function couldn't find the file that's associated with this, because maybe you're running it from a place that doesn't have this, doesn't have a file name, or is not a .l file. So if that's the case, then we go and we look for it in all the different places that we can. Here, this is a lambda that basically searches through the buffer that's been specified, or the file if it's past the file name. I basically took this code from how find function search for symbol works, with a little bit of a modification, because this part over here, where was this? This part over here needed some changing. Otherwise, it was getting confused with function calls that were one after the other. Anyhow, what it does is it checks against all of the Emacs Lisp mode buffers, as well as the Sasha Elias find function search extra. And the first buffer that has the definition wins. So that's how I now have find function working for all my functions, even the ones that I've defined in my literate config, or the ones that I've just put in a scratch buffer somewhere and totally haven't gotten around to saving to a file yet. Which is great, because when I'm exploring things, I'm often thinking, oh yeah, how does this one work again? Or can I get into it so I can debug it? And this one will now let me jump straight to the function without having to worry about where and how I defined it. So yeah, and I even wrote tests for it. Yay! I think that still works. Let me go see. Let's see if it still works. Yay! 2 tests. They both pass. So yeah, that's what I got. It's if you look in yayemacs.com for Yay Emacs 11, you'll find the source code and maybe future episodes. Who knows? Anyway, that is what I got for now. Thank you for dropping by. Do you have any questions? I will wave my hands around a little bit until we sort that out. Ooh, I should actually maybe not overlap. Haha, wait. Hang on a second. I can figure this out. How do I resize this? Ooh. Look at that. I got like chat on screen. Alright. Okay. So, stuff is over there. I'm just going to keep this short then. If you have any questions or comments, leave it in the place where you know where the comments go, and or email me.